Hi, my name is Savannah, and welcome to my TED Talk. So I kind of have an uncomfortable topic, so I'm also going to make you guys uncomfortable by placing you in a scenario. I want you to imagine you're at a social setting and you're really hitting it off with this person and you're sexually interested in them. So you go back to their place and you see that they have a sex robot. My question is, are you still interested in having sex with this person? So I actually asked a lot of students this question, and I was surprised by the variance of answers that I received. Personally, my immediate reaction was no, and then I started to wonder why I was uncomfortable by this. I talked with Mariah, and we dissected that the fundamental reasons that I and other girls were uncomfortable with this was because this robot is mimicking a real person, from body language to touch. Yet it cannot consent, and it is permanently an object of sexual desire. It is the human body without the mind, and it is close enough to a human to still deliver some of the benefits, but at the end of the day, it is a sex object that cannot argue and cannot say no. This would lead me to wonder, how does this person view me, and how am I different? Now, this example is extreme, but there are technologies in our graphs that may have us asking ourselves, how can AI-based tools negatively affect human connection? Some things I'm going to be going over are consent, CAIP, deepfakes, and chatbots. Starting off with consent, Oxford defines this as the permission for something to happen or the agreement to do something. This is a fundamental aspect in every sexual relationship, and abstracted from its sexual identity, it is also a part of everyday life to make sure that we are maintaining our autonomy and being treated the way that we want. Before I get into the AI aspect, I want to go over porn and its negative effects. So the sheer scale of pornography consumption today is unprecedented. Among adult websites, there are 3 names that dominate the digital landscape, these being Pornhub, Xvideos, and xnxx.com. Together, these platforms draw in more than 5.81 billion monthly site visits. This is equivalent to 134 visits per minute, with users spending an average of 18 minutes per session. These numbers are not only impressive, they are alarming. This level of constant engagement raises important questions about the neurological and psychological effects of habitual pornography consumption. Scientists have begun to compare this kind of consumption to substance abuse. The brain, wired by evolution to respond to sexual stimuli with dopamine surges, can be hijacked by repetitive, high-intensity exposure. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to reward and memory, is designed to reinforce behaviors essential to species survival, like eating or sex. But when it's overstimulated, particularly through artificial means, the system begins to malfunction. As we can see here, over the course of maximum of 5 hours, and on the left, the amount of dopamine, food and nicotine are 2 of the lowest. Sex has a high climax and then goes down. Amphetamines and cocaine are second highest, and porn is the 3rd highest with this, and stays pretty steady over the 5-hour mark. As psychiatrist Dr. Norman Doidge explains, pornography satisfies every condition required for neuroplastic change. That is, it has the power to reshape the brain. He writes, when pornographers boast that they are pushing the envelope by introducing new, harder themes, what they don't say is that they must, because their consumers are building a tolerance to the content. This concept mirrors what we see in drug addiction. Pornographic scenes act as hyper-stimulating triggers, releasing unnatural levels of dopamine. Over time, the brain's dopamine reward system, this damages the brain's dopamine reward system, leaving it less responsive to natural forms of pleasure. The result, users find it increasingly difficult to be aroused by real-life partners. This desensitization sets the stage for a wide range of sexual dysfunctions and psychological struggles. Users report increased symptoms of depression, anxiety, and reduced quality of life. Studies even show a separation between wanting and liking, a hallmark of reward circuitry dysregulation. Consumers crave more porn, even if they are no longer enjoying it. This situation worsens when we look at how users adapt to this tolerance. A study by the Max Planck Institute in Berlin revealed that higher porn usage correlated with reduced brain activation in response to standard pornographic content. In other words, regular users become bored with conventional material and seek out more violent and deviant content. Pornhub Analytics supports this trend, showing that traditional categories are declining in popularity, while searches related to incest and violence are on the rise. With 1 in 8 videos advertising violent content, this trajectory is especially dangerous. As the line between fantasy and reality continues to blur, researchers warn that exposure to violent sexual content can influence behavior, particularly through a mechanism called mirror neurons. These brain cells fire not only when we act, but when we observe others performing the same actions, increasing a likelihood of imitation. As we can see here, from the year 2022 to 2024, with these numbers over here being in the millions, the amount of porn visitation is steadily increasing. Nowhere are these effects more concerning than in the case of adolescents. According to Common Sense Media, 73% of teens aged 13 to 17 have watched pornography. 54 were first exposed to it by age 13, and nearly 45% believed porn offered helpful information about sex, which is troubling considering that all pornographic videos are staged and are exasperated for viewer pleasure. It is further problematic for other reasons, such as at age 13, the limbic system, responsible for emotions and pleasure, as well as the prefrontal cortex, which governs self-control and decision-making, are still developing. Exposure to explicit content during this stage can have long-lasting effects on the wiring of the brain and its behavior. The brain is also most sensitive to dopamine at age 15. During this age, teenagers' reaction are 4 times stronger to images seen as exciting. Delta FOSB, a protein linked to addiction, which helps the brain remember certain things and forget others, rises in cases of substance and behavioral addiction. In cases of repetitive pornography use, viewers' brains lock into a pattern of perpetually searching for sexual stimuli. Meanwhile, the Journal of Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics found that 96% of adolescent boys watch pornography, with 10% identifying as daily viewers. This subgroup of frequent viewers were 21% more likely to have problems with peers, had a 52% higher consumption of alcohol use, and were 20% higher to use oral tobacco. These damages aren't just neurological, they're also relational and societal. Returning to the data from the National Library of Medicine, we find that young men exposed to violent pornography are 2 to 3 times more likely to participate in teen dating violence. Another study showed that 11% of women at an urban community health center stated that they were forced or threatened to participate in sexual behaviors that the perpetrators saw in pornography. This shows that the internet's habits are spilling into public behavior, shaping not only how individuals experience intimacy, but how they treat others. What makes this conversation even more urgent is the rise of CAIP. This stands for Customizable AI-Generated Pornography. This is where all the dangers we've discussed so far become more severe. CAIP allows users to instantly generate pornography tailored to their specific desires, with virtually no content restrictions. Their only limitations are their imagination. With tools like these, anyone can now create scenes that simulate extreme violence, rape, or non-consensual acts involving recognizable people, all with realistic visual detail within a matter of seconds. Unlike traditional pornography, CAIP doesn't require actors or a production crew. This generator can fabricate fake individuals and place them in scenarios, or users can upload real photographs of classmates, coworkers, teachers, or strangers, and place that person's face into a pornographic scene. When AI technology is used on a real person to place them in a photo or video, that is referred to as a deepfake, which is just another category of CAIP. These deepfakes are not only deeply unethical, but they are also profoundly damaging. Victims may have no idea that this content even exists until it is shared with peers, coworkers, or even family members. At that point, psychological and reputational consequences can be devastating. This is how CAIP makes pornography more alluring for users and more dangerous for everyone else. Even more disturbing is how these tools are being used to digitally exploit minors. When you look up how AI-generated images are being abused, you are met with headlines like this. Oh, wow, that was a lot. Pennsylvania man charged with possessing AI-generated child pornography. Florida man pleads guilty to producing, distributing, and creating thousands of images depicting child sexual abuse material. And horribly twisted Charlotte pornography case shows the unsettling reach of AI-generated imagery. I want to talk about this case right here real quick. This is the case of child psychiatrist David Tatum, who was sentenced in November on charges of child pornography. Tatum had been found to have decade-old photos of classmates and used AI technology to remove their clothing, creating child pornographic depictions of them. FBI special agents reported that the doctored photos were extremely realistic, and they could not tell the difference between an AI-generated person or a real photograph. A woman who was 40 at the time of his arrest and had her 15-year-old photo found in his basement said that she can't describe the moment when they showed me my 15-year-old naked body. The saddest part is I don't even know this man. I've never met him before in my life, but he impacted it in such a negative way. Of course, this technology doesn't just target anonymous people. Celebrity deepfakes are a well-known phenomenon. One of the earliest examples involved Gal Gadot's face being superimposed into a pornographic scenario. At a glance, the video appeared authentic and showed her in an incest scenario that she did not consent to. Other celebrities have been victimized: Scarlett Johansson, Taylor Swift, as well as Maisie Williams. While some viewers dismiss this as a harmless fantasy, it was in truth a violation of privacy, consent, and identity. And this is not a fringe issue, it is a growing crisis. According to Sensity AI, 90 to 95% of all deepfake videos are non-consensual pornography, with 90% of these having women as their victims. Another powerful example of this is when a popular male video game streamer created deepfake pornography of his female colleagues and showed it during a live stream. His audience and the internet watched as the boundary between real women and AI-generated fantasies dissolved within real time. Even high school students like us are now using these tools. At Westfield High School in New Jersey, students were horrified to learn that pornographic images of their classmates had been created and were circulating. These weren't real photos. They were AI-generated fakes used creating innocent, everyday pictures. There are efforts being made to combat this. One is the Defiance Act. This is a proposed bill that aims to give individuals the legal rights to sue creators of explicit, non-consensual deepfakes. Although, there are people who oppose this. In a PBS survey done in 2024, they found that younger men are more likely to oppose this legislation, with about 22% of men under 45 saying that they strongly to somewhat oppose giving victims legal resources. As you can see right here, the highest number of opposing people were men under 45, with others, women 45 and older, men 45 and older, and women 45 and younger, only slightly disagreeing with this legislation. This points to a larger cultural issue. When consent becomes optional and real people can be digitally exploited without consequences, we are normalizing a new kind of violence, one that's technologically enabled and incredibly difficult to trace. Another dimension of AI-driven intimacy lies in the growing popularity of chatbots. Chatbots are AI conversation simulations that engage users through text or voice. One of the most prominent examples of these chatbots is Replica, which came out in November of 2017. With a monthly subscription, users can create customized AI companions designed for platonic connection or erotic interaction. What sets Replica apart is its linguistic sophistication. The AI is trained to produce emotionally intelligent, responsive dialogue, language that feels empathetic, real, and personal. However, issues arise when these bots begin to capitalize on the addictive nature of sexual conversation. When prompted sexually, they mirror the user's tone, maintaining and escalating erotic dialogue without hesitation. For some users, this opens a door to intimacy. For others, it is a trap. A 2024 study published by the Journal of Behavioral Addictions revealed disturbing trends among AI chatbot users. 32% exhibited symptoms of behavioral addiction, 18% reported increased feelings of loneliness and social isolation, and 25% showed decreased interest in forming real-world romantic relationships. These findings highlight a shift, not just how we emotionally or sexually engage with our needs, but how we relate to others. Users are increasingly replacing human connection with synthetic simulations, developing habits of intimacy that are safe, predictable, and one-sided. So obviously, AI can't consent, so why does this matter? Because AI lacks sentience, it does not possess the capacity for consent, and for many users, this distinction is overlooked. The interaction feels so convincing that the absence of agency is ignored. This presents a critical ethical concern. The dangers are not that AI is being harmed, but that users are becoming desensitized to the concept of consent itself. Engaging with an AI that always says yes may rewire our understanding of intimacy, reinforcing the idea that desire can exist without boundaries or reciprocity. Ultimately, these experiences risk eroding the foundational principles of human relationships, particularly in areas of respect, agency, and mutual consent. So how can we go about fixing this? Through my research, I found that comprehensive sexual education had the most benefit in reducing the harmful aspects of pornography and how it can be used against other people. A study I looked at showed that women who were taught a sexual education course that was based off of abstinence watched more pornography in order to learn more about their sexuality and how to engage with others, while women who were taught a comprehensive sexual education course, which meant that they were taught that they should have sex if they wanted to, and they were taught how to use protection, and were taught how to engage healthfully with their sexuality, watched less pornography and were more sexually satisfied with their sex lives. I also think that we need to change the environments in which we place our adolescents in, because that's really when the brain is learning how to respond to sexuality. A study I looked at specifically implemented professional development programs like POP, porn, which equipped school staff with tools to address pornography use and image-based sexual abuse among students. Rooted in the empowerment theory and media literacy, this brief 4-module program showed promise in increasing staff awareness, reducing victim-blaming environments, and fostering a safer school climate. Laying the groundwork for future students focused on adaptations and support healthy sexual development and prevent digital forms of sexual violence. On the legislative front, a bipartisan No Fakes Act offered strong step towards protecting individuals from AI deepfakes. Introduced by U.S. Representatives Madeline Dean and Maria Elvira Salazar, the bill established federal intellectual property rights over one's voice and likeness, and empowers individuals to take legal actions against those who create profit from unauthorized digital depictions. By also shielding platforms that act responsibly and aiming to unify state-level inconsistencies, the No Fakes Acts balance personal protections with free speech and technological innovation. Merci. Thank y'all.